It's time for fun, learning, commentary, laughs, and more. Care of the most diverse group in the genealogy and family history world. Welcome to BlackProGen Live with your hosts, Nika and True, and the baddest panel in these pedigree streets Angela, James, Linda, Alex, Ellen, Tony, Shelly, Teresa, Bernice, Felicia, Willie, Renata, and Tasia. It's BlackProGen Live, genealogy, family history research with flavor.
Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to your dose of genealogy with seasoning with Black ProGen Live. My name is True Lewis, and I'm your co-host for the evening. And I just want to welcome everybody on out here for our DNA episode, and we have a full panel ready for you. So now I'm going to turn it over to your host, Nika Smith.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? It's been a long time. You probably have missed us. Some of you have made sure we knew of that. Thanks so much for taking some time out on your Tuesday evening to talk genealogy and family history research with us. We're glad that you joined us for this next iteration of Black ProGen Live. On tap for today's topic is beyond percentages. DNA tests for genealogy are now part of the permanent landscape in family history research. Did you know you can get much more info than what's on your fancy pie chart? Learn creative ways to find the previously unknown relations of your ancestors, how to confirm or deny oral history, and how we use tools offered by DNA companies to expand our own research. Watch and chat live during Beyond Percentages, doing more with your DNA results tonight, right here on Black ProGen Live. Love or hate the new look? Feel free to comment on the show. If you have a question or comment, join the conversation now. Participate in the live chat on YouTube to the top right of the screen if you're watching on a computer, and at the bottom right of the YouTube app on your mobile device. Also, be sure to weigh in on Twitter by tweeting us at BlackProGen or using the hashtag BlackProGen. Have you been like, man, I can't believe I missed that episode. I want to watch it live. I need reminders. Well, here is your reminder to set reminders. All you need to do is head to my YouTube page and click set reminder under the episode you're interested in, or simply subscribe to the channel and you'll get a reminder each and every time we go live. And just to let you guys know, a heads up, we have shows already loaded through June. So feel free to peruse the selection and set the reminders for the ones you're interested in. Since 2013, the Midwest African American Genealogy Institute has provided an amazing learning experience for genealogists and researchers. The Institute, also commonly known as MAGGIE, is the only African American focused event offering a total of 48 classes over 3 days, offering a comprehensive genealogical educational experience of benefit for the beginner, the intermediate researcher, and the professional. Join us from July 10th through 12th, 2018 at the Genealogy Center at the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana for the 5th installment of MAGGIE, the Teaching Institute. For more information and to register, please visit maggieinstitute.org. All right. Let's come off of mute, everybody. Wave hello. Let's go ahead and introduce our panel for this evening. Starting us off will be Bernice Bennett.
Hello, everyone. Bernice Bennett from Blog Talk Radio. And guess what? We're going to have a snowstorm tomorrow.
I'm sorry, because it's like 40 something degrees here, but we are not getting snow here in Tennessee. So yeah, I'm sad, but you're going to have to hunker down. Do you have your milk, your eggs, and your bread?
I have everything, even the toilet paper.
All right, next up with the Forever Wakanda t-shirt on is James Morgan.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing tonight? This is James Morgan. I'm also battening down the hatches here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. But you know what? That means tomorrow I get to do nothing but genealogy. I already have carpal tunnel in one hand, so we're going to work on the other one tomorrow. And that's just what it is.
So you're gonna batter your other hand so it matches the other. That
Exactly.
is hilarious. All right,
Exactly.
joy
These are war
joining
wounds.
us.
War wounds.
Oh wait, I missed the accoutrement. I missed the. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was not aware. He even has the what do you call it? The artillery to go with his thing. I missed that. I didn't see that before.
Yep.
All right. In the show me state with the swoop is Linda Bug Sims.
Good evening, everybody. It's Linda Sims at MississippiRooted.com. Glad to be here, and there's no snow in our forecast.
All right. No snow, no snow. Shelly Murphy, you're next. You're on mute, sweetheart. You see, she's just steady talking. She don't even see herself muted. I can't unmute you, Shelly. Okay, true work with Mama. Mama done forgot how to unmute herself. All right, Teresa Vega.
Teresa Vega, Radiant Roots Barriqua Branches, Uptown Manhattan. And yes, this is like snowstorm number 4 in 3 weeks. Enough already.
Basically, you're like, can we just get this over with? All right, True, did we get Shelly together? Or Shelly, you can unmute yourself. If True muted you, you can unmute yourself.
I'm pretty
I
sure
understand that, Mama,
her.
but you got to do it in the browser. She ain't listening. That's all right. Oh, hi, I'm Shelly Murphy in the great state of Virginia, and I'm sitting in my lazy boy, and
Turn the red light off, please.
Yo.
that was my interpretation. Granted, I do not have Beyonce hair. It's not straight. She clearly does not understand the browser, True. So you have to turn her to the browser so she can see the browser.
Hey,
Yes,
Nika,
James.
I am here now.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
mute that. I heard every word you said, Miss Panelist. This is Family Tree Girl, hailing from Virginia at 32 degrees, waiting for that storm to come on in so I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Ooh.
Have you all noticed that our DMV crew is like, they're all like, haha, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I can do genealogy. Did you notice that? They're all like rubbing it in for the folks that have a 9 to 5 that don't have a snowstorm coming.
I'm working on a succession plan.
Oh,
I would love to have one good snow that would keep us in.
Well, let me tell you, they closed New York City public schools, and that's a big thing up here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is.
That's serious.
I was just in New York. They didn't close it, and 4 feet came on in there. That's like my old Michigan days.
Man.
Everything was still rolling.
Not tomorrow.
Well, Teresa, you got your
Not
eggs ready.
tomorrow.
Teresa.
Hey, I'm all there. I'm okay.
Remember, I was further north.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I had to ask because, see, I'm a Californian. This whole "do you have your eggs, bread, and your milk" situation, I was not aware of that until I got to Tennessee. Definitely not last. Actually, next to last, we'll go with our resident college student here, who's in the house, Willie Russell III, 4th.
Yeah. Hey, Willie Russell coming from New Orleans.
All right. And last but not least, go ahead and smile on them, True.
Hey everyone, it's your girl True Lewis from My True Roots, and I'm here in the dirty South, Kentucky.
All right. And before we get into the discussion, we have a lot of statement t-shirts tonight. So if you are wearing a statement t-shirt, say what's on your statement t-shirt. We'll lead with Teresa.
There you go. Sleeping in a slave dwelling changes the narrative.
All right. True, what you
Representing
got
the Slave Dwelling Project. Hey.
Oh, you know I'm repping Alabama right here. So keep your eye out for the Equal Justice Initiative. They are opening their museum next month, so I'll be there in Montgomery if you get a chance. But yeah, I'm always repping the red and white there.
Roll Tide. All right, James, statement t-shirt.
This is actually forever. This is for the African American Civil War Memorial and Museum, where I am a volunteer tour guide and genealogist as well.
Yes, and James gives great tours of DC. He sure does, because he gave me a great tour. Bernice, you got on your BlackProGen Live shirt.
Yes.
Willie's got on his BlackProGen Live shirt. Linda's got on her BlackProGen Live shirt. And me and Shelly are sort of out here in no woman's land. Shelly's got on great embroidery with sort of like a doily in the middle. I'm trying to figure out what that
It's
is.
beads.
Oh,
It's
now I see. It
beads.
looks pretty.
Renee's Boutique online.
Renee's Boutique. All right.
Yep.
All right.
It's a friend of mine, and she has a shop for ladies.
Okay. And my statement t-shirt is in commemoration of Women of Color Photographers Month, which is the month of March. So if you know a woman of color who's a photographer, be sure to give her some love during the month of March. All right. Well, let's jump into the subject at hand. We are talking DNA and genealogy. This is, of course, probably going to be one of our most watched episodes, because this is the stuff everybody wants to know about, because a lot of folks that probably would not have had an interest in genealogy are getting into genealogy because of DNA testing. When you've got over 7 million people in Ancestry's database, 23andMe has over 5 million, and those are just those two systems with 12 million people in them. You know, so many folks are trying to get that little fancy pie chart. They want to be able, as our friend Shannon Christmas says, have their genetic selfie they could post it on social media. But we here at BlackProGen know, and lots of others, of you know, that there's way more to DNA testing than just getting those percentages. And so that's why we, of course, are having a conversation tonight about going beyond those percentages and beyond, what just kind of what you're saying. There are a million videos on YouTube that are going to show you the reveal, right? Or what do my percentages look like? And, was I aware of this information and all this other kind of stuff? That's great. But you've got to move beyond that if you want to actually hit the good stuff in your family tree. So to start the conversation tonight, amongst the panel, what is your go-to DNA test right now and why?
I would say mine is Ancestry DNA, only because you can upload to all the other free autosomal transfers and get more bang for the buck. And I would say that is the one that I go to now first for that reason.
Okay, and what she means by autosomal transfers is she means that you can download the raw data of your genetic profile that's on the site, and you can upload it to different systems to be able to use it in different ways. That's what she means about that. All right, who's next? What are your go-to DNA tests right now, and why?
For me, Ancestry is also my primary one. I always tell folks, if it's your first time doing a DNA test, I always suggest Ancestry DNA first. And the reason why is, along with what Teresa already said, their database of DNA matches is really unmatched in the genealogy world. And, generally speaking, you will find people who are just trying to get DNA results so they can have that social media moment. And I'm sure we can talk about that later. But you will find people who are genuinely interested in making connections, who have family trees and whatnot. And they have cool little features. Like, for example, I had both of my parents do DNA testing. So they have a cool little feature where, you can click on mom's side, dad's side to figure out, to kind of sift and filter your DNA matches a little bit easier. So I take advantage of that quite a bit since I had both my parents tested also.
Yes. I like 23andMe. 23andMe has some features that I can turn around and then go to my ancestry. So let me just explain what I'm saying. With 23andMe, you have a chromosome browser, you get your DNA matches, and some of those matches will have surnames. Well, I look at my top DNA matches in 23andMe, and I look at those surnames. Then I go to Ancestry, and I try to see if I'm going to see some of those top surnames popping up in my Ancestry account. Now with Ancestry, every day I'm getting new matches. And I think it's because it's one of the largest databases. But I'm also seeing similar things happening with 23andMe. I think the sale has brought in a lot more people. So that's why I like to go to 23andMe first, then to Ancestry.
Interesting.
And I use 23andMe too. That is my favorite because I love their chromosome browser. I can do up to so many people. I think it's up to 5 now. And I have my parents there, so that means I'm phased and I can tell my matches that are on my mother and my father's side. And yeah, I kind of fall for the ethnicity trap too, but that was early in the days. But now I'm used to triangulating and getting into all the other stuff we're going to talk about later on. But yeah, that's my favorite. That's who I prefer to use for all my family members. So just a disclaimer there.
I've used Ancestry. It's kind of my favorite just because I've got the brick wall public tree there. But I'm getting hooked on My Heritage. And right now, because I've uploaded, you can upload free from the other companies. But also, I think Living DNA is going to be interesting. I talked with them at Roots Tech, and I just simply asked them, what are you going to give me that the other companies don't? And you know what they said? Location. So I'm anxious to take that test and see, because according to him, he's going to take the DNA and put it to a location, not just a country, a location, zooming right on in. So I find that intriguing. But other than that, My Heritage and Ancestry.
And Nika, I would jump in to say that most of us who are into genetic genealogy, we use the different tests for different reasons. So, while I may do Ancestry DNA as a first test, when people upload I will promote 23andMe or Family Find. It just depends on what people are looking for. But definitely, if I'm someone is looking to see if they have Malagasy roots, we always talk about the full sequence mtDNA test, Family Finder. So it just depends.
Yeah.
Linda, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, Linda, I'm not sure. For some reason, is your headset muted?
Check
No
the red light.
wonder.
The red light.
Check the red light. There's a red light.
And I
I'm
didn't
gonna
even
start.
touch.
I'm gonna.
See, it
I'm gonna
wasn't me
start
that
singing.
time.
Actually, if
I'm
they
gonna
would have
start singing.
said,
I'm gonna start singing
microphone.
John Legend. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
singing "Check Your Red Lights." That's gonna be my thing. What were you gonna say?
No, I like Ancestry and 23andMe for different reasons. And most of my family has now tested with Ancestry, but when I'm trying to figure out the mother and father's line, I'll turn over to 23andMe. So I like them both. I just uploaded to My Heritage, so I'm playing around with that one.
I have to agree. I use them all of the companies for different reasons and methods, but my go-to is 23andMe. I have, for now, that's like where I'm doing my strategic work at. So.
Well, I'm just making a comment. I have my first cousin and one of my brothers on Family Tree DNA, and I've got the big Y ordered. My cousins came back first, and my brothers, we just updated his. So, and I got a notification that, there was a big Y match. So I'm anxious to get in there and see what that is and who that is, if it's somebody we don't know. But no one said anything about Family Tree DNA. So
True.
I also use that one.
I was gonna.
On Family Tree DNA, I did the full sequence with Family Tree DNA. But as far as the autosomal, that's my smallest number of matches. I only have about 500 matches with the autosomal. So it was really the full sequence. And I tested my brother also on Family Tree DNA. In fact, he's in everything. He's in My Heritage and 23andMe, ftDNA, and I just did Living DNA. So we're all.
So I was gonna chime in and just because remember we got to take a step back, right? We're talking about percentages. The average person who may be watching this may not know the difference between an autosomal test or a gender specific test. So when you mention full sequencing, what Bernice is talking about is Family Tree DNA offers a test that allows you to sequence your direct maternal line if you're a woman, or your direct maternal line if you're a man, or your direct paternal line if you're a man. The reason for the difference is that in order to distinguish between a man and a woman, a man gets a Y chromosome. That's what makes him male. And so Family Tree DNA offers that. That's a much more specific test. It doesn't yield as many results. Most of the tests that people are taking are what are called autosomal, and they apply to both sides of your family. And you can have an identical twin. In fact, when I just gave a presentation recently, I talked about Bernice and how her daughter shows up as her identical twin's daughter on DNA systems, because her and her sister are genetically identical. That's the only way that that will happen. So just to kind of add to the conversation, my go-to right now is Ancestry DNA, and it really is because of the tree, and also because of the number of people who have taken the test there, as well as depending on the project that I'm working on, just like you all talked about, depending on what I'm working on will dictate which site I will go to first. And so sometimes I will start with 23andMe, or sometimes I will start with Ancestry, but my number one, if I'm going to go do some work, is definitely going to be Ancestry. Autosomal percentages, let's talk about that, right? Because those are the little percentages you get on your little pie chart that tell you, what regions or locations your genealogy, your ancestry is from. So how do you think these ethnic percentages help new genealogists, right? In some ways, recently Ancestry changed their display, and they used to have headings, right, where it would say, Africa, Asia, Europe as the big heading, and it would give you the larger percentage, and then it would give you the breakdown underneath. They moved away from that, and now it's just percentages of different areas. How do you think those test percentages help new genealogists? Don't get into hurt. We ain't talking hurt right now. We're talking help.
I don't like Ancestry's new ethnicity layout at all. I'm glad I screenshot the original before they changed over, but I think mine is pretty close in terms of my percentages.
How does this help new genealogists though? What are the ethnic percentages? How do they help a new researcher, especially somebody who may have had an interest in genealogy, or and was on the fence, and this test is going to potentially push them over? How do those ethnic percentages help a new researcher?
I would say that it would help you if you have your pedigree and your genealogy research. It tells you that. It can give you, confirmation of that. I know that that's what I use it for. If I see my mom is on chromosome 1 and it's her Balkan line, and I know that I have my tree back to certain people from that area, I think I use it more to depend on that right now. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, so basically what you're saying is you use those percentages as to back up the research that you've already done, right?
Yes.
Now, and the reason why I'm asking this question is it's specifically towards people of color, okay?
Okay.
Someone who may identify however they identify, right? Because those headings were removed, it was much easier to see on the sort of continental level if somebody may be able to identify as half Black and half white, because you've got the Africa, the Asia, and the Europe broken down. Now it's not as obvious unless somebody is going to sit there with a calculator and do math. And so as a new researcher, especially somebody who may not know the parentage, that they may have, whether it's their mother or their father, right? Maybe it's a mystery. Maybe generations back, it's a mystery. Maybe it's your grandmother, your grandfather doesn't know who their parent is. It's harder to figure out without those headings, but even without them, you still can add the percentages up to be able to make inferences. So that's one way that percentages would help a new genealogist. Are there any other ways that you all can think of that would the percentages themselves would help a new researcher?
For me, I really view it as also trying to be in line not only with my own research, but with research of other scholars in the history of the slave trade, particularly. So I often look at such as Gwendolyn Midlow Hall's work in her site on tracking slave ships and whatnot. And so I'm very into like clustering of African ethnic groups in slavery. So when I compare that research with my own family history, with the DNA results, it ends up making it a lot clearer for me. And what I tell folks all the time is, for me, and everybody has their own rule with this. There are some people who really swear by ethnicity estimates. Some people who are almost religiously against them. I kind of fall in the middle. I don't really try to swear as much by these countries or tribal estimates and whatnot, but I really look more at the geographical regions where these companies are tracking your DNA to. I've tested with several companies, and they've all basically told me the same thing, that I'm principally, on a genetic level, my ancestry comes from the Niger River Valley, at least on my father's side, right? So, that if you tested 4 or 5 different companies and they all say the same thing and the same percentages, basically, hey, I guess that's what it is, So that's the other thing, is it can help you not just with your pedigree, but also when you're looking at the research of others, you can better understand where you fit in your community, from a genetic level.
Nika, I would also add that your 3 major categories, sub-Saharan African, European, Native American, or Asian, those are the larger categories that we have to remember have more validity than a lot of the secondary ones. So as long as people are aware that no one admixture test is going to tell you with 100% accuracy what you are. Okay. So use it with a grain of salt, but use it in conjunction with all your other genealogy research that you've done. But your main categories are more or less closer to what they should be. I've tested at all the major companies. It's clear. I'm triracial. My European and African are maybe 1 or 2 percentage points off. The rest Native American. I pay attention to that, but I also know I still have to do all the other research as well that confirms some of these other things that we know we have ancestry in.
Well, I agree with you, because I'm every company that I've tested with, they're all pretty much saying the same thing. They're saying I'm triracial. I see it. And so I can move on with that. Now, it does help to have the chromosome browser that can show you just where you're European or you're Native American or you're African, because it does help when you start doing your genealogy to know exactly what are you looking for. I mean, I have a cousin that tested, and what we discovered is that our common ancestor is not African. Our common ancestor is European. And we perhaps would not have known that, but the chromosome browser is the thing that really helped me say, without a question, our common ancestor is European. We can see it.
But that's a step. See, come back, y'all. Y'all done went down the block, and we supposed to stay in front of grandmama house. And she told us don't leave. And y'all done went and took off because you saw the ice cream truck. Let's come back. Okay, because we got to remember, not everybody is where we are. We are steep in this every single day. Okay,
Yes.
The average person is getting the percentages right. They've seen the commercials, they've seen the ads, they've seen everybody else's genetic selfies that have been posted on social media. They're new to this, right? Some of the findings, right? They may have been looking for that Native American to show up, and it didn't, and they don't know why, right? They don't even know what a chromosome browser is. They have no clue what that is.
Right.
Okay, so here's the thing. Because that's the thing, we talked about how the percentages can help new researchers. True alluded to the fact that, it can verify already existing research. That's if you have a tree. What if you don't have a tree, right? But here you are, you identify as African American, right? And then you've got, somehow a large amount of Scandinavian ancestry. 25%. What do you do with that if you don't even know what a chromosome browser is, right? We aren't even there at that point, right? So in that instance, that shows you've got a Scandinavian ancestor. If you've got 25% Scandinavian DNA, that usually lends itself to you have a full Scandinavian ancestor. Now, granted, it could be on both sides of your family, right? Because these results apply to both sides, but it may just be one grandparent that's Scandinavian, that maybe you didn't know that. That's how the percentages can help you. On the flip side, how they can hurt you is people will cling to that 1% Native American and take that all the way to the bank and will try to be going for tribal benefits, land, all sorts of other things, right? Whereas it's not as statistically significant as the 25% Scandinavian. So let's talk about how the percentages can hurt genealogists, right? And how can these percentages hurt genealogists just quickly? New or new people, new researchers. We're talking new researchers. It's still in front of grandmama house.
It's going to take them down a different lane because number one, they lack the knowledge and the skill. You have to get that basic genealogy down and basic research, because if not, I'm going to look for my Native American princess. I know I got her. I know she got straight black hair and the fake high cheekbones or whatever it is. But the thing of it is, it's going to take them down a place that they don't know what's going to happen, and it's going to mess them up per se, and then once they look at that, they're going to be hailing and say, I want my 40 acres and a mule, and it could be white or black, whoever we're talking about. Again, people take that ethnicity to heart and to the bank with it, but again, they have nothing to back it up. So if I say I see European on mine, then, well, who is that? Where did they come from? Hey, is it the grandmother, the great grandmother? So they have to get those basics down in order to understand even what the percentages mean. So I think there's a whole nother route of education for the new people. Don't just jump out there. I got it. This is me. That's not going to help you. And it's not telling you anything either.
I think it can hurt a person if that's all they're looking for. They open the page, they see their percentage, they get what they want to see, and that's it. They don't take it to the next level of really trying to understand the genealogy part of it. They don't look at the relatives that they may have. So it could hurt them if that's all that they think they're buying into when they take a DNA test, just to see their percentages.
I agree. So moving forward, we talked about chromosome browsers, right? Certain genetic genealogy companies offer the ability to do what is called chromosome browsing, right? Someone in the chat room asked, what is a chromosome browser? That's another reason why I brought us back to grandmama house. So now we at auntie house, a couple doors down. We moved down the street. Chromosome browsers, they basically allow you to take your genetic information and match it against someone else who is already in the system. Not every genetic genealogy or genetic DNA company offers this functionality. Family Tree DNA offers it. 23andMe offers it. I think Living My Heritage offers it now, right? They offer it because I'm not on that website for My Heritage. And you can also do it on a site called GEDmatch, gedmatch.com, which GEDmatch is a third-party tool that I think the majority of the people who are watching and who are on the panel use quite often. It's a free tool for the most part. It gives you the ability to download what is called your raw data from the various genealogy DNA sites, and it allows you to upload it into a pool where there are people who are tested from all the other companies, and it basically makes one big pool of DNA matches from all the sites, so that you don't have to pay to go to each one to be in their system. And so GEDmatch provides you with the ability to be able to look at your DNA matches at a chromosomal level, where you can see that you share DNA on chromosome 1 starting at this point and ending at this point. And so that becomes important when you start trying to find out which branch of your family the DNA that you share with the DNA match comes from. So let's talk about third-party tools. Let's throw GEDmatch out there. Is that you all's go-to resource right now? How often do you guys use GEDmatch?
I use it every day.
Every day.
Yeah, I'm on there every day.
Same here.
Every day.
Yeah. The 529 and U tools, Nika, and the Ancestry Helper, I use those too, but I know that those are, what do you call those, extensions?
Yes.
Yeah,
but they are tools.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, GEDmatch is probably Renata
Sorry.
says Renata says she used GEDmatch every day.
Sometimes I'm on it 3 and 4 times a day.
I know. And GEDmatch is great because, it's like the pool party at your friend's house, and it's like everybody from every high school is allowed to come. So, you know what I mean? It's not just the people from Valley View, it's the people from Canyon Springs, the people from Mobile, the people from Vista del Lago. I'm just shouting out all the high schools from Moreno Valley. But that's what I'm saying. It's all the people in one pool. That's another reason why I think a lot of people should really pay attention to that, especially if you're new to genealogy or you're new to DNA and you have a DNA match that is like us and who is imploring you to get registered and to get uploaded to GEDmatch. Do it, because it will give you can just harness a lot more power with GEDmatch. What are some of your other third-party tools? True, can you explain? I've used 529 but I want you to explain what 529 does.
So that is an extension that is on my Google, and it's in the tools. You can go up there and look in their little, what is it? Their little extension packet that they have. And that is something that I use to track my 23 and me matches.
Okay, and what she's referring to is it's a Google Chrome extension that you can add it to Google Chrome, and it will give you additional functionality within 23andMe. This is specific to 23andMe, and it will give you the ability to analyze matches. It gives you just a lot of different stuff. Any other tools that you all have that are go-to that you all would like to mention right now?
Well, I have the Chrome extension for Ancestry.
Yeah, I have that as well.
What we used to call the Jeff Snavely.
It used to be the Jeff Snavely.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yes, and that's Ancestry DNA Helper. That is an awesome tool. I use it a lot. And that's for Google Chrome. Okay, the majority of these extensions that we're telling you about are for Google Chrome. They only work in the Google Chrome browser. So if you don't have Google Chrome, you'll have to download that. Then you can go to the extension store, and then you can download and add that functionality to your browser. What Ancestry DNA Helper does is it allows you to search your matches by username. I think that's probably the thing that I use the most. It allows you to search for surnames. And one of the other things that I like about it is that it allows you to search for username for all the accounts that you have access to. And I like that feature because I can see if a certain account matches several accounts that I manage at the same time. I think that's probably that's probably the thing that I like the most about it. In addition to being able to do a little bit of triangulation, which, that is looking at your matches that you share in common with another person. That's just a fancy word for that. Any other tools? You guys are forgetting my favorite one right now.
I would say, well, I don't know what that is, but for me, I would say GenoMate is up there as well.
Yes. GenoMate. I was about to say that, and that's not the one I was talking about. But that one is the bomb. A lot of people don't use it because they are intimidated by the fact that they would have to extract their data from the system that they're already using. So when you really get into this, you want to be able to track your DNA matches quite a bit. And it gets to be a little confusing. A lot of folks will put those DNA matches, they'll take the information out of the system that they're using, and they'll put them into spreadsheets so that you can sort whatever way you want to. What GenoMate does that I love is you can extract the information, which chromosome you share with the person, the start and the end points of where the DNA is. And you can also, you can take that out, put it in the database, and then you can go by chromosome, and you can look at all of your matches in one spot, and it will actually tell you who you have in common with each other for you. But there is a learning curve with GenoMate because it is a software. You don't need a particular browser to access GenoMate. You just need to be able to have a Windows, Mac, or Linux system. So if you are in the chat room, of course, being in the chat room, you get all of the goodies because that's what we do for everybody in the chat room.
So
all the goodies.
So Nika, I felt a disturbance in the force, and I think that what everyone was forgetting was DNA painter.
Yes, thank you. That's
I
exactly what I was
felt
talking about.
my Jedi powers, they work again.
Your Jedi
That's
powers
true.
are working again. Yes, I will share my screen so you guys can see this, because this is, I just showed this at a presentation that I did this past weekend, and everybody was like, oh my gosh. They couldn't believe it. This is my favorite part of DNA, of the shared CM project. This is like the bomb. Okay. If you all are not using this, come on now. Come on now. So basically, what this is this uses information from Blaine Bettinger, who's one of our Genia buds, who basically conducted a study on the amount of DNA that people share with their known cousins, and he created this system where you basically see on average what people who have certain relationships share in terms of DNA. And so that's this chart that's at the very bottom here, where it says like great grandparent, grandparent, all this kind of stuff in these relationships. But they took it up a notch. And what they did was, somebody just give me a random number of centimorgans that you share with somebody.
106.
All right. So if you put in 106, the chart will change, and it will tell you the probability of relationships that you can have with your DNA match. So let me zoom in so you guys can see this, right? So we put in 106. That's the total number of centimorgans. And then it will give you probability. So it'll say, okay, 39.96% of the time, that's a half second cousin once removed, half first cousin twice removed, first cousin 3 times removed. 30% of the time, that is third cousin, half second cousin once removed, all that. You can just go all the way down, right? And then here's the best part. Remember that chart at the bottom? This is where this is key. So usually what I tell people is, since we put in 106, I typically, you look at these sort of squares here at the bottom. The first thing you're going to see is the relationship. So you see 2C, that's second cousin, right? Right underneath that is the average of what a second cousin shares with another second cousin. Then beneath that is the range that second cousins can match each other. It can go anywhere from 46 centimorgans being the amount of DNA shared, right? That's just the measurement term. So a second cousin can share between 46 centimorgans to 515 centimorgans. But on average, second cousins share 233. Now, since we entered in 106, I usually will look at this chart and see what is around 106 on average. And right now I see a first cousin 3 times removed. That's at 123, so it's just over, right? I also see a half second cousin that falls right within that range. So this will give you the ability to do that. Now, Bernice said put in 192. I see you suggesting that. So let's go over here. So if you put in 192, you see it shifts, right? And at that point, I will then look again. Okay, which relationships are close? Half uncle, half great great aunt or uncle as 187, right? Then you've got let's see, I would put my money there. Half great great niece or great nephew, which of course half great great aunt or uncle would match. That would be the converse relationship potentially, right? You've got it's sitting a little bit low for second cousins, but it shows up there. So that this is how this is a very powerful tool. This is one of my favorite things to use right now. And I, of course, if you're in the chat room, you get the link. Ha! All right. Anything else before we move on to the next subject?
Now, will a newbie be able to look at that, like we're sharing that information, and say there's people in the chat room that are, they got GEDmatch, but will they be able to get to DNA Painter and understand it? Is there tutorials out?
Yes.
and things like that? Because
yes, there are. There
Okay.
are, and here's the thing. So for most of the sites, they're going to tell you how much DNA you share with the other person. Each site is going to show that differently. 23andMe, you have to go into their particular profile. You've got to go through
Okay.
the chromosome matching area or shared DNA area to see that. Ancestry, when you're on a person's profile, you will click the little I that's there that will tell you the amount of centimorgans of DNA that you share with that person. Family tree DNA, you'll have to go into the chromosome browser to see the amount of DNA that you share with the person. What this tree does, or this site does, is it demystifies the family tree chart, right? We've all seen the one where you pick one square and you pick the other and you line them up and it tells you which relationship you all have in common. It takes that and it translates it to the DNA environment. That's basically what it does.
Okay, so another question, and I'm referencing this back to newbies because I got fussed at earlier for not having stuff in Excel. and she's my cousin, and she fussing at me but she gonna work with me. That's okay. She is, and I know she listening to me, even though she has her mic muted. But anyway, talking about Excel, and I love Blaine's chart, and I think that's a tool once they get to that level can really use that. I see that as a little more advanced versus GEDmatch, Excel, things like that. So for someone just getting started, would you refer them to DNA Painter? And because several of you and people in the chat said that they're looking at GEDmatch every day or their favorite tool every day. But for a newbie, would they get this? I mean, I understood it once you walk through, and is that also in his book?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. This is a new thing that is the end of the year, so I doubt it's in Blaine's book. But once you start comparing DNA, right? I think this chart sort of demystifies things because you can just put a number in versus I have this alleged relationship, right? Here's the other thing. Let me back up a step, because the DNA systems are going to give you an approximated relationship to your DNA matches, okay? And sometimes that could be off. It could be a generational separation, meaning that you and the DNA match are not on the same generation of your family. You may be one generation removed or 2 generations removed. The DNA systems don't say third cousin twice removed. They don't say fourth cousin twice removed or once removed. They don't give that. They don't give halves either. They just operate in totality, in full relationships. What this chart does is it brings it back to the level of it could be a half relationship. Here's the probability where that shows up. You know what I mean? Here's where in those scenarios where that happens. And that can then help guide your research, especially if you're a newbie, because then in that instance, you can say, okay, if this is a half second cousin, that means it's a half relationship. Instead of having 2 people in common, we only have 1 person in common. If it's a second cousin, that means we share great grandparents. Well, because it's half, that means it's only one of my great grandparents that I have in common with my DNA match. So that's how this is sort of kind of pushing people out there a little bit. When you leave this step, you have to then go to the chromosomal level, making sure that you've tested the appropriate people in your family so that you can vet your hypotheses about where the DNA comes from. What I mean by that is most folks think they only have to test themselves. No, if you're really trying to get far in DNA research, you've got to test multiple people in your family. And once you do that, you can see who your known family members have in common with you. And if the DNA that you share with your matches overlaps with that family member, and then that will guide which branch of the family your DNA matches is on.
So one last question. So I got my results. I've done the GEDmatch. I'm looking at learning the tutorial. Do people need to figure out what they're looking for when they're dealing with DNA? And the other thing, I remember the companies, 23andMe and also Ancestry, they changed something and changed either how they did something, the algorithms or something. So, everybody was kind of, not in a panic mode, but trying to figure out what those changes were and what that meant. And also Ancestry also they were going to change something on who could be showed up as cousins. And I immediately thought this might be white people that don't want their African ancestry necessarily to show up. So the notifications and things, and I don't know if y'all understand what I'm communicating, because I don't know what they called it, but we got notified that something was changing on Ancestry, and that they were dealing with something with the notifications. And again, I'm gearing this towards somebody new, because it didn't really change like my ethnicity things. I still had the same amount of matches, but then I think I lost some matches when they did one of those changes.
Yes,
so
I also lost matches.
Okay.
We have it's a timber. It's a way
Okay.
to calculate matches, and so some of the matches with Ancestry are actually underestimated. So that when you see them transfer to GEDmatch, you may find that they're much higher than what they appear to be in Ancestry. Also, I have had some of my Ancestry matches when they've transferred to GEDmatch will say share no DNA. So you just need to pay attention to what's going on and how they're calculating it. And they do have a system that's slightly different. It's called Timber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every system. That's the thing people got to remember. Every genealogy or DNA company you use uses a different methodology. They have a different system. They have a different way of filtering information. And so, whereas people could test over I guess the big three companies, right? If you're looking at a match that's like less than 10 centimorgans, sometimes that person may not show up on Ancestry, but they show up on 23andMe, or they may show up on Family Tree DNA. It really all depends on how that company processes the results. That doesn't mean that you're not related to the person. It just really depends on how the company, how they put forth their methodology. We got quite a bit of content. We've got to get that. We got it.
Nick, I was just going to also say it's important to test more than one relative, because I've had matches who match my brother. We're whole siblings, but didn't match me either. So
Exactly. That's an important point. So before we move forward, of course, we're giving you all this stuff in theory, right? This is all in theory. We wouldn't be BlackProGen if we didn't give you some bread and some meat to eat before you went to bed. Okay. We're not going, as my mama says, she makes fun of me because she said, you ain't gonna get that boy no meat. Talk about my son. He may only want rice that night because he's 3. But we're gonna give you some meat tonight along with your greens and your cornbread. You might mix your cornbread and your greens, or you might like a lot of hot sauce. We got to give you some meat before the night is over. So let me go ahead. I'm gonna share my screen. True, you're gonna go first. And you're gonna share what this is that we're looking at. After that, Bernice, you're afterwards.
Okay.
Go ahead, True.
Sorry about that. So that was my X chromosome. So what I wanted to say about this is 5 generations. This is a person that's 90, 70, myself, a 20-year-old, and a great-great-grandbaby. So what you see here missing is, out of the 5 people, see who that person is missing there in the middle in the gray? That is a first cousin male. All these matches are being compared to my father. So one of these people is my aunt, which would be like a step in for his mother, and then me, his daughter, then his grandson, and then his great-great-grandbaby. So I'm like one of those people out there like Blaine that have 5 generations of my family tested, so I can see what I'm getting from people, because some people match my dad and I'm not matching them, or my Aunt Velma, things like that are going on there. So
let me just reiterate, because you did say that this is a 5-generation chart, right? And that this is from your father's perspective, meaning that he has a great-great-grandchild that is living. The reason why his X chromosome shows up gray for that child is because it's not the same X as the great-great-grandchild. They would share no X DNA, because your father's X DNA is going to come directly from his mother. The great-great-grandchild must conversely be related through their mother or through their father, not their mother. Does that make sense? Or is that not what this is?
That is what that is. But that makes sense to me because if if you're looking at me on 23andMe and you see so many chromosomes with us all matching 5 generations in a whole lot of spots, maybe 2 or 3 times on a chromosome, but then you have it here, you see that one person missing is because that is my dad's nephew, which is my first cousin. And of course, his mother is, he has his own maternal side. This is all my dad's maternal line here.
And with going back to what she just said, it's the gray line is her father's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
They're related through True's father's brother's son.
Exactly.
Okay. That means that it's a different match. It will show up differently if it was True's uncle, if it was True's father's brother, because they share the same mother. Their X chromosome would be an exact duplicate. But because this is True's father's nephew,
Mm-hmm.
and his relation is through his dad, not through his mom, there is no X DNA that is shared between the two of those because the X DNA does not come from the same woman.
And that
Let
helps.
Let me explain it again because the chat room, they're like, I don't
sorry.
understand. They're like, I don't understand. So here it is. Hold on, because you guys, the chat room is they're like, I don't understand this. What this is this is a 5-generation chart. There's a person whose DNA is being compared to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the person who the gray line represents, right? Each one of these lines represents a separate person. The pink person is one family relation. The orange person is another family relation. This gray line here is a separate person. Then we've got another person who's blue and another person who's green. All of these people represent 5 generations of one family. This is how this chart shows up on 23andMe. This is a cutout from 23andMe. Just 23andMe, okay? And what we're explaining to you is that each of these people, four of the 5 people share DNA on the X chromosome. One of them does not. The reason why is because we're only looking at the X. In this case, the person whose profile we're on is a male. He gets his X DNA from his mother. The person who is not matching him on the X chromosome is another male who is not related to the main tester on his maternal side. He's related to him on his paternal side, which means that his mother contributed his X DNA to him, and it's not the same woman as the main tester. That's the reason why there's no DNA shared on this X chromosome. Okay. So let me just make sure I get all of the questions out in the chat room because they are having a cow because they don't understand what this is. Okay. All right. So this is what this looks like in 23andMe. And when Bernice referred to a chromosome browser, this is the type of result that you get out of 23andMe when you compare 5 people who have known relations. And in this situation, this is 5 generations of the same family. All right, moving on. Bernice, care to talk about this?
Okay, what I want to show you all is how you can figure out how someone is related to you when there is no chromosome browser. And this particular match is a predicted 4th cousin. Now, as you can see, I have 3 names circled on here.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the other image?
Hold on, I've got it. Just a second.
Okay.
I've got to manage the chat room and y'all. So just give me a second.
Okay, so I immediately saw 2 names in a tree of a 4th cousin that I recognized because when I was doing my genealogical research on my great-great-grandfather, Peter Clark, I found that he had a sister named Olivia Clark. And Olivia Clark married Alexander Dorsey. And so you have another image, if you can show them. Yes, this is a marriage record that I pulled almost 10 years ago. So can you imagine getting a DNA match at the fourth cousin level and seeing those names and then saying, wait a minute, I know who this is. And I could then inform my fourth cousin match, I know who you are. I can tell you, I have the original marriage certificate, and this is my great great grandfather's sister. Members of the family have also tested on 23andMe, and I now have Peter Clark's grandson's DNA. And so they're matching. I can see it on the chromosome browser. So it does validate your research. And so that's one of the ways that you can definitely take your DNA to another level by showing the proof, because they didn't know about Peter Clark. They had no idea how they would be related to me if I did not have the background information.
And Bernice, there's one other document that you sent over.
Yes.
And Willie, you're going to be next after
It's
Bernice.
the Freedmen Bureau record. So if you look, you'll see Olivia Clark, 16 years old, and Peter Clark, her brother, is right under this. And this is a 1868 Freedmen Bureau record in Livingston Parish, Louisiana. So I can tell you folks, very excited because I validated and I had a revelation because I found a sister. So it validated everything that I was doing.
That's awesome. That's great work, you know.
And I also want to remind folks, Bernice actually talked about this Freedmen's Bureau labor contract on the Freedmen's Bureau episode we had of this show. So that also dovetails really well with DNA, because this is pre-1870 genealogy research that she's doing, right? This is, tried and true time period, before 1870, right? Which is crucial for the populations that we're talking about. This is how you're able to break through the brick wall with DNA and then allow the documents to confirm what your suspicions are in terms of DNA matches. DNA does not go without genealogy, and genealogy does not operate without DNA. They both go hand in hand. You cannot separate the two. All right, Willie, FYI, I took the freedom to change the names on your information that you share, because as good stewards of genealogy information and DNA information, we want to make sure that we protect the identities of the people that we're matching. So we don't ever submit information or post information with people's real names unless they give us permission. So you're probably going to laugh at the names that I chose, but you know who the people are. All right, let me get to my screen. All right.
Okay. Okay.
T'Chaka Jones.
Okay, so this is, I'm going to show you how I traced my grandmother's paternal line through DNA. So I had my father tested, I think it was about like 2 or 3 years ago. And when I began to research his mother's line, I did not know anything about her family other than her parents' names. So the only person I could talk to about that would be my grandfather. So he told me her parents' names, and I found her mother, but then I was wanting to find her father. So he told me what the father's name was. His name was, and I looked and I actually found someone on the 1900 census with the same name. So I was wondering, I said, okay, well, that possibly could be it, but there was no way of me proving it. So I put the census away. And then just last year I went on my father's DNA test and it came up with a second cousin match. So I was like, okay. So I clicked it and then it showed that, there was a Jordan surname that was in her family. So as soon as I saw that Jordan name, because my grandmother's father's last name was Jordan. So as soon as I saw it, I emailed her immediately. And she actually responded back to me about a week or so later. And she called me. And so I had asked her, I said, well, I saw that you had a Jordan match. And I was wondering, by any chance, how are you related to the Jordans? And so she said, well, my grandmother, Parfina Jordan, she told me where she was from. And so I said, well, by any chance, are you related to Sherman Jordan? Because I knew the location. And so she told me that, yes, she was. That was actually his sister. So then I said, okay, by any chance, do you know what his parents' names were? Because I remembered I had found the census record years before. So I came and I brought the census record back, and then she told me the parents' names. The parents' names actually matched the parents' names that were on the 1900 census. So to further determine and to make sure that I had the right person, I had pulled up the 1900 census and I saw it, but then I also had found him again on the 1900 census listed with his grandparents, Thomas and Catherine Jordan.
And let me stop you so we can show the image. So
Okay.
basically, this is what Willie's talking about here. Is he's talking about the 1900 census. This is Sherman Jordan listed in the household with his father Simon Jordan and his mother Emma Jordan. He's here as an 8-year-old child, and then he's enumerated twice. He's also and looks like my lines got a little bumped, but forgive me for that. He's also listed here on line 12 of the same census, listed as a grandson to a Thomas Jordan. Also, he's in the household, roughly same age, but he's enumerated twice on
and then
the census.
And then what further led me to believe that this was actually true was because his sister Parfina is listed right there underneath him.
Yes.
So then I said, okay, so then I told her the names. And so she said, yes, that's correct. Because actually Parfina had a son named after her father, Simon. And she also said that her father would tell her stories about their grandfather and all that. And so I was like, okay. So then what I did was, just to further make sure that this was the right Thomas and Catherine Jordan, I went back further and I actually found Thomas Jordan on the 1880 census, and it's listed with a son named Simon Jordan right there. So that's how I confirmed it. But then I wanted to confirm also that I had the right Sherman Jordan. So what I did was I ordered his Social Security application, and it was the correct Sherman Jordan because it had the parents' names, and those are the names that she gave me. But then one more thing, if you can go back.
Sure. Okay. Where do you want me to go back to?
Just the slide before this one.
Okay. The DNA?
No, the 1880 census.
Okay, 1880 census. Okay.
Okay, so now you see a Willie Jordan there at the bottom underneath Simon.
I see Willie Jordan.
So I was on Facebook one day, and I had saw a picture of a Jordan. So then I took it to my grandfather because I knew they were some of the same location, and I heard the name before. So I told my grandfather, I said, I found this picture, and he said that was my grandmother's cousin. So then I messaged the person. I actually got his death certificate and called the number listed on the death certificate. His wife still lived there, and she confirmed that we were actually related. And Willie Jordan was actually his father. So that's even went back further to confirm that this was the right Thomas Jordan and all this was the right information. So I actually found another son along with my great grandfather. So.
All right. Yet another example of how genealogy and DNA go hand in hand. So these are just quick examples that we wanted to give you all so you could see that you can actually track down information with DNA and genealogy. You know, as I often talk about, in these cases, these were I would say fairly close, right? We had a second cousin in Willie's case. We had was it like a third cousin, I think, Bernice, for you?
Yes, fourth cousin.
It was fourth cousin. It was a fourth cousin for Bernice, but it was still traceable. For me, I honestly tell folks, stay in that range. That range is actually good. When you start getting out to fifth cousins, anybody that's like less than 10 centimorgans, you are needle in a haystack. I feel like you are trying to find a ladybug in a greens patch. You know, just don't do it. You know, unless you've got your genealogy down like a lot, I would highly suggest not, you know, waiting in a 10 centimorgan match. You want to do fourth cousins and closer. And in some instances, you may not have matches that are that close. Just give it time. You know, sometimes you just have to wait for those matches to fall just right in order for you to get the information. Something else I'll also, share with you all, you're looking at patterns. You're looking at patterns with the same surnames, same locations, same trees, or information that matches your family or familiar locations and surnames.
Excuse me, Nika, I just want to pause 1 second. Did you just say ladybug in greens patch?
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to pause. I'm sorry. We can go on.
I did because
when you said it, it went over my head at first, and it came back and hit me in the back of the head.
it boomeranged back. No, I mean, to me, it's a perfect metaphor because who's gonna go into a greens patch and look for a ladybug? You're trying to get the greens out.
You know, Nita, I just want to say though that you can look at some of those lower numbers if you can figure out the shared matches. I have found patterns with my shared matches where the CMs have been lower. But because I've had so many people to test, for example, my Fraser line, I can basically tell anybody if they pop up in that shared match, they're Fraser. And then we can figure it out because we can go really far back. Because look like everybody who's a descendant of Boston Fraser, who was born in 1835 in Edgefield, South Carolina, the descendants are testing. And so, you know, it gets to the point where you understand your patterns good enough that you can say, okay, this is where we're going to look.
I agree, but still, get out that green pouch looking for the ladybug until you know your stuff well enough. And I'm telling you, if you even feel like you're gonna go there, just say, think of ladybugs in a green patch, and say you came there to get the greens, not the ladybugs out of the garden.
I'm gonna have to figure out an urban synonym for that one, because I'm like you reminded me of how much of a city boy I am with that one. I gotta figure out
needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack is a good one.
That's all it is. Needle in a haystack.
Look.
But she's a gardener. Let her have her greens and a ladybug.
I'm not knocking it. We can move on. I'm just saying. I'm from Essex County, New Jersey. I ain't never been around no haystacks. The green patch, like that's down south stuff. I need to figure out.
Come on down to the country. Come on down south.
I hear you.
Okay, James. All right, here's a great example. You don't care about a Coke bottle top in the middle of the street. Like that's nothing. You don't care about that, right? You just kick it and you keep going.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Now you're talking my language. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Now I'm talking his urban language. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, we got to get to viewer comments before we get into your favorite part of the show. All right. Talking from the chat room tonight, Carmen White says, and for Africa, I would think ethnic/tribal groups are more important than countries. Borders were put in place by colonizers. She's absolutely right. Shannon Christmas, our genealogy bud, our DNA genealogy bud, says everyone should get into all of the DNA databases. Denise Muhammad says, I love this, in reference to us sharing the DNA Painter site. She said it really helped me figure out a match that popped up as a first cousin. Figured out he's my half nephew. His mother is my half sister. So exciting. So that looks like we had some fruit that bared itself from DNA Painter. All right, moving on. Your favorite part of the show. Favorite part of BlackProGen Live. Ask Mariah. It's been some weeks since we've had one. I know you guys are anxious. We've got a good one. This is the part of the show where you, the viewer, submit your questions, queries, conundrums, and more to the panel, and we weigh in with live help specifically geared towards you. Panelists never see the queries beforehand, so you get a chance to see us work this out together live to help our Genia buds get past their brick walls. And we're, of course, the pioneers of doing this, although other people have tried to take our shine. Ask Mariah is the first. So tonight's query is from Julie, and it is a juicy one. My in-laws did an ancestry to find out what nationality they were. At the same time, a girl popped up on both sides and rose to the top, which makes everyone believe my husband has a daughter that he never knew. You should see the face of the panelist right now. You can't, audience, but I'm cackling to myself. It's pretty funny. Not at Julie, but just that statement. She doesn't look like anyone in the family. We are lost and don't know if this is true or if this is accurate. From my in-laws test, it says it leads us to believe my husband has a daughter he never knew. She's got no documents or records. No one in the family has done any genealogy research. So we've got a high DNA match. Somebody's child popped up in the match for a in-law, and they seem to believe that this is Julie's husband's child, and she doesn't know where to turn.
All right, folks, that's it for the night. We'll see you guys later.
How many CMs are we talking? How many CMs?
That information was not provided.
This may seem really, really remedial, and I know we're going to get into what she can do with the DNA and this and third, but has anyone actually asked her husband, like, hey,
Oh my.
I don't know, like I just don't, I was so uncomfortable answering this, like.
Shelly turned into the aunties. That's our unofficial name for the elders who are part of BlackProGen, the aunties. She went into full auntie mode just now. She's just sitting in her lazy boy, and she's just like,
Yeah, I mean,
the thing. He said
sound like hubby got a baby out there he didn't know about.
Okay, but what's about both sides? Is she saying her father's side and her side, or her mother's side, or?
Well, remember, this is Julie's in-laws. This is her in-law. And this girl, it pops up in both of their DNA matches at the top.
Okay.
When you say both of their DNA matches at the top, is
her husband's parents?
Her husband's parents.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
got it.
Both of the so her husband's parents would be the grandparents. Is that
technically would be the grandparents of this?
Where was she born?
We don't know any of that information. This woman just popped up at the top of the results. And see, here's the thing. Here are the questions, right? First one is, have you considered testing your husband? Because that would dispel or prove this theory. That's the number one thing.
Siblings.
Exactly, or any siblings, because we don't know if her husband is deceased or not, right? So she could test his siblings. If his siblings are deceased, she could test one of their children, right? Because they would show up as a first cousin to this young lady. Second thing is, what's the amount of DNA that's shared, right? That takes us back to that chart we talked about tonight.
Right.
Plugging in that number, if you're talking ancestry, right? DNA, click that eye on that profile, right? Matter of fact, let me go back to one of the slides so you all can see what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the eye on a profile. Just so you all are clear what that is. All right, so you see we're here, right here in this area where you've got predicted relationships, possible range, and you've got the confidence. If you click this little eye, it will bring up a separate little screen and it will tell you the amount of centimorgans that you share with that person. You can then take that number over into the shared CM project that I showed you all earlier and put that in here. And if you are a grandparent, right, you want to see a range that falls around 800. Or let's just put in 800. That could be a great grandparent. It could be a great aunt, great uncle, right? For grandparent, technically you should be at about 1700 centimorgans for it to be a grandparent. Okay. So that's one easy way that you can sort of figure this out. The second thing that I would also suggest is instead of talking about her, talk with her.
Yeah. That's also a big thing.
Find out, why did she test? Is she seeking additional information, or is she questioning father or mother? I mean,
right.
But this is very emotional, and because two individuals have shown up as close matches, something is going on.
And
and if the in-laws have seen it, I don't know if this person has even talked to the in-laws. If they've seen the results, they may start asking each other questions.
Right.
But I definitely would say talk to her, send her a message. Ask her, would she like to share some information with you, or why did she test? I always ask that question. Why did you test?
Also, you have to look at when you look at the shared DNA site and whatnot, when you look at the centimorgans, you also have to consider other possibilities, even ones that may be a little out of the box in your thinking. I mean, theoretically, as I'm thinking about it, it's possible. I mean, is it possible that father-in-law could have been messing around with one of mother-in-law's relatives. I mean, you don't want to think about that, but that's a possibility that is out there. You know, I mean, stranger things have happened in the world.
Pass
So
the plate. It's decision time.
Bring it on.
you know, you have
Come
to
on
think
Bring it
about
now.
that.
on.
But either way, it doesn't. Depending on the Cinemorgans, it doesn't sound like this is like it's to me it sounds like it's going to be easier to figure out if everybody is participating and everyone's open and honest and whatnot. But it sounds like afterwards may be the difficult
But
part.
here's the thing: we're
That's what it
talking
sounds
emotions here, right?
Right.
Bernice,
Right.
great points. You know, I always tell people if a mother is involved in this situation, I've only seen him go two ways. Either she is completely no, there's no way that is your father, and blah 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 blah, and it severs the relationship between the mother and the child, or the mother is like, well, there's no in between.
Right.
It's either one of those. And so what the other thing I would say is if you're on Ancestry or you're on any of these systems, you know, reach back out to us, tell us what the projected relationship says, because one of the things that's kind of hairy for folks on Ancestry is the close family grouping.
Right.
And the fact that certain relationships show up as close family. If it's a first cousin, it's gonna say first cousin. If it's a second cousin, it's gonna say second cousin. But if it's closer than if it's a grandparent, if it is a half sibling, an aunt or an uncle, because those relationships share around the same amount of DNA, that's what shows up as close family. So reach back out to us and let us know, you know, what it shows up as. Is there anything else you all want to add in here before we go and get into current event?
Only to do the DNA. She's got to get that going first, and then go tackle this. I think until she understands, you know, get the tree out there, some basics or something like that, and do her own research. Because as Bernice mentioned, the emotional side, this thing could blow the wrong way. And there's some devastation that could be happening. That lady's calm now, but if hubby did have other children and then they break down who this is, who the mama is, or whatever, there could definitely be some changes happening in the future. So I just would like a message to her is to do your due diligence on the research.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get on the phone and call everybody in the family telling them.
No, don't go drinking that Kool-Aid. You know, just do the research. You gotta get yourself armed with enough evidence that when you go talk to hubby about this, if there's, you know, if nothing's been said, is that basically, all right, who was she? Or what happened? What, you know, whatever. But she's got to have her arsenal ready, you know, and because it could work out very well, or it could be really bad.
Mm-hmm. And I would say don't go in there like a bull in a china shop.
No.
You know, I mean, you got in-laws, you know how your in-laws are, you know, or you should know. If not, you need to learn your in-laws before you go in there and tell the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, you know, I would imagine for those of us that are married or betrothed, whatever verb you want to use, you know who your in-laws are, right? And you know how certain people in your family take information. If your mother-in-law is very overly emotional about small things,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. If your husband does not take well to information, you might want to cook the best meal, cook his favorite food. Maybe arrange for a massage or for him to go and play basketball with his friends, or maybe he likes to play on the Xbox. I don't know. Get all that together before you lay the news down.
Yes.
Because it didn't sound to me like her husband had been consulted. Maybe you might want to get him a drink too.
I'd get him drunk.
I would too. That might be my thing
Yeah.
too.
She's going to have to make a decision if she can handle this, or she's going to be walking away. But honestly, you know, you just don't know.
But see, this is bringing up other stuff for me. Yes, I have a speech hand. Is this really her business to figure this out?
Oh, if
Is it
that
really
was
her
my
business?
husband, oh yes, oh yes. If that was my husband, I suspect that, just like I was looking earlier, thinking one of my brothers might have a baby out there that we don't know. I'm going for it, but I'm
But
gonna
the
go
thing
there with
is,
my
though,
information right.
to me,
I
the way
want
it
it to be right.
to me, the way it read like her in-laws had taken the test. She got access to the accounts, not that she bought the kits and is administering
Oh,
them. You see
I'm
what I'm
buying the
saying?
kits
So
too.
that's what I'm saying. So if you are just given access, is it really?
Well,
I mean, come on, you guys.
well,
There
you know what I
comes a
think? I think
point, there
that you
comes a
have to.
point where you will have to step out of it and let
Yes.
the family deal with the family issue.
Exactly. That's how I am
Yes.
You
about
know,
it.
and that's the way I would look at it. If I saw some
Mhm.
information like that, I might say, this is what I'm seeing, but then I would step out and allow them to figure it out
Mhm.
so that she doesn't get caught in the
Mm.
middle of a mess.
Angela's in the chat room. She said, "Leave it alone." But
Yeah.
I expect that from
That
Angela.
Yeah.
somebody, you might get to knock
But
on it, but you
yeah,
can't always leave it alone if somebody starts knocking on the door.
I
True.
mean,
Because if she just got that info, somebody else might also have that same info.
Mhm.
Well, it just goes to show you, you never know what will happen when someone takes a DNA test. So you got to be ready for that.
That's
Gotta
right.
be ready.
That's right. You have to be ready.
Check your butt.
Because you will
Is your
get
red light on?
surprises, folks. There are secret scandals and lies, and it is going to come up in the DNA. And as many people have said over and over again, DNA does not lie. So
And you got to be responsible.
you have to be responsible, expect the unexpected, and
Right. The good, the bad, the
yes.
ugly.
I just asked my husband, and he said, "Just tell me." He didn't need all the massages, drinks,
To know,
Xbox
just tell
games.
me.
He said, "Just tell me."
But
Yeah,
will
I
he
think- I
tell
think-
you?
I asked him as he was heating up his dinner in the microwave in the kitchen just now. I said, "Would you want to know?" He said, "Just tell me." He said he just want to know.
I think that I think that the best thing to do is to everybody who has the information is to sit down and say, look, this is what it is, this is what it says, and these are possibilities. And if they want to pursue it, then pursue it. And like you said earlier, Nika, make sure you talk to that young lady and get her input and see where it goes.
Okay, I just want to make one last comment. Miss Shelley. Miss Shelley said, well, if I'm buying the kit, I said, just because you bought the kit does not mean that you own the information.
I've learned that.
Yeah, she's good, and there's a valid point in the chat room being raised. My Booski, my Atlas adjacent cousin, Carmen White, she says they're a quick word for the relatives who are paranoid about DNA tests and think the government is coming for their genetic material to set them up.
Yeah.
And my answer to this is you leave more at the hospital than you do with this company. The hospital, I did not get my stuff that I left behind when I had my son. There was all that was all over the place. Not only
That's right.
I also went to go get food today. I left hairs, I left my fingerprints, I left my debit card number, right?
Yes.
So that's something I always have to remind people of. It's like, okay, the other thing is, because there have been stories, warrants, blah, blah, blah. For these companies, they have the same process that the police have to use to get a warrant to get a DNA test from you in person, like when they come to your house, is the exact same means that they have to use to come to the companies to get your genetic information. They have to go before a judge and prove that there is a legal case for them to be able to get that information. So as I say always, if you've had any surgery, you think about what you left behind at that hospital in addition to your DNA, which is more than you're giving this company. If you're concerned about privacy, you do not have to use your legal name. There is nothing on here that says you have to use your legal name. You could be Lola Falana on your results. You can be Cher. You can be whoever you want to be. Okay, they're going to mark your gender because that automatically gets generated by the test results. You do not have to attach a family tree either, but you don't have to legally use your name.
You could be
my zipper has been unzipped, so I know they got my DNA all over the place.
Nika, Shannon raises a good, he makes a good comment in the chat room. Be prepared for anything, but verify everything. So true.
Everything.
Oh, good.
Mhm,
That's a
mhm.
good one.
And
Absolutely.
I would also say too, check the different companies. I don't know about all of them, but I do know on 23andMe, I do have a person assigned to take over in case, something happened. And I do have it written out on all the companies, all my kits and who I tested with, and I have it dated, printed, and signed that says, okay, if I can, this is who I legally want to take over my results that I have on JetMatch and all the other companies. So that might
I've
be
done that
something
too.
to think about in the future. And I know going forward with me, I am going to be asking permission when I buy kits for the elders. It kind of wasn't an issue now or before because it's just my immediate family. But as I'm getting into this and being strategic, I just kind of want to have that safety net here behind me about that. So
Yeah, in terms of
I
the
agree.
contingency plan, Family Tree DNA does give you like an heirship,
Okay.
like who you can pass your results to. So that is there as well. This is something we talk about at length in track 2 of Maggie. We have a whole conversation about privacy, who has access to what you should not share, all that kind of stuff. That's why you should go to Maggie so you can be privy to these conversations in a group setting. Something else that I will also add is for me, we have 60 people tested in my family. And folks think I'm crazy, but I only manage 3 kids. That's it. Me, my mother, my grandmother. That's it. I give folks the ability to manage their information. If they want to share it with me, that is their prerogative. If they don't want to, they don't have to. That way, it takes the onus off of you. If something happens, it is not in your lap. That's one of the reasons why Nika was like, oh, okay, you want to do it? All right. You want to give me access? Yes. If not, no. I had to wait 2 years for my cousin to give me access. Thank God he did. But I felt better empowering the person to do it versus me buying the kit and then, me trying to pull the strings. That's just my own personal thing. But yeah. Anywho, all right. Current events. We got a few that we got to touch on tonight. First one up is New York Times. Nella Larson was a literary star during the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s and 30s. Her dramatic novels about Black middle class families and the debilitating pressures of race inspired meaningful conversations. Yet she died alone in 1964, having withdrawn from the limelight. Her body was found days later in her apartment, and there was little news coverage of her death. Despite her success, Miss Larson did not get an obituary from the New York Times. Such lost tales are the concept behind Overlooked, a history project recalling the lives of those who, for whatever reason, were left out of the Times obit pages. And I felt we needed to share this because it's March, it's Women's History Month, and there are a large number of women who are a part of this obit project. That's one of the things that they noticed is that women's voices were omitted a lot from these official obituaries that were posted or were published by the New York Times. In fact, they did a really good one on Ida B. Wells that I actually shared on social media. So be sure to go and check that out as well. Another big story from the Providence Journal. The pages are delicate, frayed, and browned with age, covered in elegant looping script. They document the comings and goings in Providence County Court. Some 270 years ago, telling of a Native American man being sentenced to 15 lashes at a whipping pole for stealing paper money while drunk in other cases. They are peppered with some of Rhode Island's most prominent family names: Green, Arnold, Perry, I think it's Angel, and Lippett. Long missing, the colonial court records recently made their way back to the custody of the state thanks to Superior Court ruling. Judge Maureen Keough issued a temporary restraining order last week blocking the sale of the historic documents on eBay. It was a legal history researcher at the University of Pennsylvania who alerted Rhode Island State Archivist Ashley Salima that Rhode Island colonial court records dated 1746 to 1749 were being auctioned off on eBay. J. Stephen Grimes, now retired judicial archivist for the state Supreme Court, contacted the Attorney General's office, and the state moved to block the sale by Frederick Schroeder Jr., 61, of Providence. I was thrilled to know it still existed, Grimes said. You still need the records of the people. The records are being held in a vault equipped with environmental controls, fire protection, and security at the Judicial Records Center in an old Slater Mill building in Pawtucket. They join bound volumes documenting social, economic, and legal fabric of the nation in its early days. So this is something that is really pretty important to share, especially in light of today's events on my Facebook page.
Well, I also want to throw in what's also important because of I have the same colonial roots. These documents that they just saved were a testament to the early presence of Native Americans as slaves and African Americans, and which gets to what Nika was going to talk about.
Yeah. So I was looking at this article that Teresa sent over, and I was just, because I had seen sales on eBay before. I had seen, and I'm talking bills of sale, all that kind of stuff on eBay. I had seen that before. And you're probably thinking, wait, are you serious? Yes. Art dealers, collectors, they will put bills of sale, historic bills of sale, on eBay to sell them. To the public, to private people, to, I mean, you name it, they will list it up there. And today I just so happened to come across, believe it or not, a listing where a person had gone. I still can't believe this person did this, because it just really chaps my hide. A person was going through estate paperwork or just going through the stuff for their family, for their spouse's family, and came across a bill of sale involving their spouse's ancestors. And instead of them giving it to the state archives or a library or any other repository, university, they decided to put it on eBay and sell it. Yeah.
No shame.
With no shame.
None.
None. Absolutely none. And I'm going to actually share the listing because I feel like people need to see this so they can see how real this is, because this is not a unique case. These things are put out on eBay all the time. All the time. And in this case, I felt like it was different because this was not a private dealer. This was an actual descendant of the slave owning people
Getting
who
rid of it.
chose to sell, to put. So this is a bill of sale from your ancestor, right? Your ancestor sold the slave to another person or was involved in this transaction. And now, because you found this within your person's, whatever your deceased person's things, you put it on eBay to sell it. So you are monetizing the enslaved people who were sold again.
Oh, a mother and a child.
The 2018 auction block.
The person says, I found this bill of sale among my family's collections. As horrible as it is that this was a part of my husband's family history on his maternal grandfather's side. And then you proceed to put it on sale for $365.
I wish there was a committee of vigilance for eBay and that we would just get together as a renegade group and contact whatever local historical society, government, local organization and put the person on blast. This is crazy.
So yeah, the only reason why I found this, Teresa, is because of that article that you shared. I just put it in.
It makes me so angry because as descendants of enslaved people, we got to dig and dig and dig.
They have the papers.
And I always say this, and you all know how I feel. I am not quiet about it. This is our history. This is how we find our ancestors. And if they're just selling this stuff, we need to put a stop to it. We need to notify eBay, hey, this isn't what should be sold. This is historical documentation that needs to be stored someplace.
Well, but the thing is, this is a great conversation for us to be having because a line has to be drawn, right? In this case, this is a descendant who is verbalizing, who is saying that my family participated in this. This was in their papers. They're choosing to sell it. But what's the difference between them and a private dealer who is putting these on there? And just for just for
I make
argument's sake,
I don't distinguish.
for argument's sake, I went and I looked to see, how other people were listing these things, and they would just say, I'm an antique dealer, blah blah blah. They would sell it for $100. But how do we designate between a descendant and somebody who's an antique dealer? Furthermore, for argument's sake, I looked to see if there was anything from the Holocaust or any other atrocity that was being sold on eBay, and there are things that are being sold, but the vast majority of these things are in reference to enslaved people. They're not in reference to any other population.
It should not make a difference. To me, it doesn't make a difference if it's a descendant or someone else. It's still part of our history that's being removed from us.
I think that you have to look at it this way. Sometimes there are things that are right and wrong, and there are things that are legal and illegal. And in this particular instance, I think this is a situation where a person is doing something that is legal, but it may be wrong to some people. Now, we can say that this is a part of our history or the history of those people who are enslaved, but that person can also come back and say, well, this is my family's papers or what have you, and if I want to sell them, that's what I'm going to do. So, I mean, does that mean that eBay should allow that on their platform? I don't necessarily know. I don't particularly like it, but at the same time, I do think, for me, I think what really chaps me a little bit is that instead of doing the research to try to track down the possible descendants of of those enslaved people that their ancestors were dealing with at that time, they decide to just sell it and that's it, and not to, and that's just me. Everybody's not into research like how we are here, but I wish that they had. When you talk about an antique dealer, Nika, I think that those are it's really kind of similar, but the antiques dealers typically know what it is that they're dealing with and whatnot, and even though they may sell it or what have you, there's still a limited market that's really going to go in for something, especially something like this.
But this stuff, no, it's not, because they know that they can get buku money from this, especially when you have the Smithsonian that just opened.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of folks are trying to strike it rich with something like that. And let me add a little yeast to this, because y'all know I didn't just leave it at the document. So I actually, because remember a couple episodes we talked about Family Search Catalog. Y'all remember that? Yeah. When James said he was gonna hop off early and he was gonna leave us. So I had showed y'all that catalog. Yep. So let me go ahead and lay it on for y'all real quick. Cass County, Missouri, where this transaction took place. Mm-hmm. Family Search has digitized their deed records, so they're online for free. I tried to track down this transaction. It's not on the books.
Oh no, it might be fake. Oh my God.
That's not saying it may not be fake. What that says is, because this is not land, right? Mm-hmm. These are people. Money. I've seen this happen before, where they may not have taken this to the courthouse to have it documented because they had the deed in hand. And unless there was some sort of a dispute about it, it could have been off the books. The other thing that I discovered in my preliminary research is that the party that purchased the slaves eventually ended up in California, which meant that he would have had to legally emancipate Amanda and Louisa, because we're going to call their names out, right? Amanda was 20 years old and her daughter was 3 or 4. Louisa was 3 or 4 years old. Okay. So eventually it looks like this slaveholder who purchased them ended up in California. If he had them in California longer than a year, he had to legally emancipate them. Or he would have had to have sold them before he left Cass County, Missouri. I did not find where he sold any slaves before he left Cass County, Missouri. So there's a huge possibility that Amanda and Louisa could have been freed. But we don't know that.
Well, the seller's name is on the document. So who's selling it. It's not eBay that's selling it. It's a person who has put the document on eBay to be sold.
Yes.
So,
but again, this gets back to the larger issue of historical erasure. Where these are critical documents that if they're not kept somewhere in a place where they should be kept, there's no way for the descendants to be able to trace back to these folks. Right. And don't tell me again, there are ways that these people can't be traced. Don't tell me that, because I've traced my ancestors in Greenwich on bills of sales. So this is an issue that is larger And it hits to a larger issue of, are we still, like, in what ways are our ancestors still someone else's property?
Right.
It's a good point.
Mhm. And does it, and is it in perpetuity? Even though the
Uh-huh.
13th Amendment abolished slavery, do we say, because James, the points you brought up were absolutely valid. I don't think anybody can dispute that. But does the perpetuity extend beyond the 13th Amendment? Do you still get to own them on paper and through documents, even though it's morally wrong? It's the same thing as, should we just say, okay, Russia meddled in our election,
Allegedly.
and had Facebook ads, right? But it didn't make a difference.
Right.
And Facebook had an open algorithm, but it didn't make a difference. Morally, that's not right. We have laws that protect against that.
Right. Well, I think the issue here is I don't know, and I'm not a lawyer.
You know,
I'm not going to pretend to be, but I don't know of any law that is in place. Now, if we want to write to eBay or some of these other different sites and whatnot and say, hey, these type of things shouldn't be sold, or there's an issue, I'm all for that. You know, I try to be solution oriented with things of this nature. And the thing is, I don't really know. Like, for example, I've dealt with former slave owning families in my own genealogy that had documents and did donate them to repositories or what have you, and I'm thankful that they did. But if they had not done that, I don't know that there was any recourse that I could have had, even if I'm descended from those folks. I don't know there's any real legal recourse that can be put out there. I don't know.
Well, I would argue, does eBay allow people in countries that participated in Germany? In Germany, do they allow people to sell Holocaust memorabilia on eBay in those countries?
I don't know, but that may be something to look at.
Well, and that's the point I'm saying, right? Because if you've established your moral compass so that sort of stuff doesn't get sold, because there maybe is a law in place that you are not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to profit off of an institution that has been abolished, right?
Right.
Or is considered illegal. Why do we have RICO laws? Come on now.
Right.
Why do we have RICO laws? So if
Right.
if that's the case, then this should be cut and dry. And it's not saying that the overall market of these things is dried up. You just can't sell it online.
Right.
Maybe
I've
that's what
seen,
it is.
I've seen slaves and inventories priced at what they're trying to sell this for. So
Well,
I mean,
they
that's
don't.
terrible.
The ones that are selling could have various reasons, but it also, for me, it just means they don't care. They don't want it, and they need the money. You know. Do I agree with what they're doing? No, I don't. But that's a personal thing for me that has people of color that were owned by other people and etc. But the thing of it is, they don't there's no morals there, period. Because if nothing else, just go drop it off at the library, in your community or something. They might not be interested in genealogy research or anything like that, but give it to somebody, because they're not even thinking that there's that mother and that daughter that might have descendants still alive, and that could mean something to them. So
I'm gonna shout their names out, and I'm gonna show their names.
Shout them out.
And this is what we do. This is what we do with BlackProGen. So it says, know all men by these presents that I, John B. Kahn of the county of Cass of the state of Missouri, have this day bargained and sold under Henderson Wilson of the county and state aforesaid a Negro woman named Amanda, age 20 years old. Also Louisa, her child, aged between 3 and 4 years old. I, John B. Kahn, do warrant that said Negroes are sound in body and mind, and slaves for life, and also warrant the title to said slaves to be good and valued unto said Wilson. Witnessed by my hand and sealed, John B. Kahn. It is dated April 25th, 1854. All right. Anything else before we move on?
You know what? The person may not be doing anything illegal, and I'm sure they have some kind of legal recourse and whatnot. But let's just be honest, this is just tacky. To all them folks out there on eBay selling slave bills of sale, you get the first ever BlackProGen donkey of the day.
That's right. And I want to say kudos to the person who found this and alerted the right people. And they took
Me.
them off. There you go.
I'm like, me? I found it. But thank you for posting the article because I wouldn't have even have
You
come
know,
across it.
I've been up reading for the past 2 weeks all these wonderful documents in the Black abolitionist paper, and I'm telling you, I'm about ready to form a committee of vigilance to get this stuff off, because we have to stand as one voice and make sure people know it is immoral, it's wrong, there's something wrong with this.
It's not okay to do our
Well,
ancestors like that.
that's right. That's right. And right now, even more with the mood and the chaos of this country, now's not the time to be doing something this stupid either. It's just that stupid, because they know people want this, but look at all the chaos and where this energy is up on the racism and all of this thing, just all of this. And now somebody finds that and it has no value to them. So
Well,
it
I would
kind of
say
breaks your heart.
this is a gray area where our viewers chime in, tweet us, hashtag your
Yeah.
thoughts, comments, comment in the groups on Facebook. If you're watching this, comment below the video. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. What should we do about this? You know what I mean? Because this is a big topic. Should we ask them to remove all slavery related, material? I mean, an easy way to point that discussion is to talk about the United Nations and the decade that we're in right now, and the fact that if they are acknowledging that and they support the United Nations, then this is something that they're going to choose to do. Or if they have different law or different, terms in different countries for what they can show, why are they making a difference between, the United States and that? So, like I said, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Just know that atlases are involved. That can bode well or not for certain people. All right, moving forward. It's almost time. We're way over, but that's okay because you guys are here. Nobody is actually left. They've watched the whole time. We've got a new look, a new theme, and more shows to get you up to speed on all things people of color and genealogy related. Visit whoisnikasmith.com for a downloadable schedule so you don't miss a thing when it comes to BlackProGen Live. We are all done with all of our episodes for March, so you ain't going to see us again till April. What's the next episode? Aha, here it is. Learn tips and tricks and more for researching your ancestors in the volunteer state. Join us for the 55th episode of BlackProGen Live, People of Color in Tennessee, airing live on Tuesday, April 10th, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Know where something took place in your family history research? Let me start that again. Know where something took place that is crucial in family history research. In our 56th episode, we'll cover how you can use and create maps and how they can give a huge boost to your research efforts. Join us for Been Around the World and Mapping Your Family History on April 24th. That's a Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Family Pictures USA is a television series and transmedia project that explores neighborhoods and cities through the lens of a family photo album. Hosted by Thomas Allen Harris, this innovative television series enlarges our understanding of history, our diversity, and shared values. Tune in live for Family Pictures USA with Thomas Allen Harris on the latest episode of the long-running Research at the National Archives and Beyond, hosted by BlackProGen Life panelist Bernice BB Bennett this Thursday, March 22nd at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, check out, we're hoping Angela will upload the 426th episode of the African Roots podcast that is hosted by BlackProGen Live panelist Angela Walton Raji. Don't forget to join the conversation. Actually participate in the live chat on YouTube, top right-hand corner of the screen if you're watching on a computer. At the bottom of the YouTube app on your mobile device, I think True told me that we are able to preserve these now. I think she said that. I think we can. So
Yes,
it's not
we
going to.
can.
Yes, we can. So it's not going to go up in a puff of smoke. I just have that visual. I'm really sad that I don't have that anymore. So feel free to chime in. And don't forget to tweet us at BlackProGen on Twitter. Use the hashtag BlackProGen. And definitely let us know what you think about this latest set of things that we just talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to True.
Thank you, Nika. I just want to thank you for another great episode, and much appreciation to our viewers and everyone for joining our BlackProGen Live family tonight. We appreciate you, and we want you to keep the conversation going over at YouTube and Twitter, and we'll see you in April. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
BlackProGen Live.
BlackProGen Live.
BlackProGen.
Hello, everybody out there.
BlackProGen Live.
BlackProGen Live.
The unapologetic Black and people of color viewpoint.
The place where evidence tells the stories.